Hey everybody, this is Bonnie Barker with Bonnie Bay Crochet, and today I want to show you how to make my quick and easy 4-hour baby blanket. And yes, it is very much doable in 4 hours, or probably even less if you are an intermediate experienced crocheter. Now, if you're an absolute beginner, of course it's going to take you a bit longer than 4 hours. But if you know the basic stitches, you're going to be amazed at how fast this comes together. Well, let me go ahead and show you what you're going to need.
For this project, I'm going to be using Yarnspirations Bernat blanket yarn. And let's take a look at the beautiful colors of this particular cake. And I have some more information on this. This is 100% polyester. Each of these cakes has 220 yards or 201 meters. That's the equivalent of 10.5 ounces or 300 grams. Please take note that this is a super bulky or number 6 size yarn, and the color that I'm going to be using is called dark blue. I'm also recommending that you have a size 11 or 8.00 millimeter crochet hook, and as always, I recommend that you have a yarn needle and a pair of sharp scissors handy. To begin, I'm going to start with my slip knot and a starting chain of 57, and you want to make sure that you do chain this in a relaxed manner. So now we're ready to start row 1, and I don't have to tell you that this yarn is pretty fuzzy, and it's not as easy to see the stitches visually. However, using such a large hook, it is very easy to feel them. So we're going to use the nerve endings in our fingers to find where these stitches are. And I promise you, after you get past this first row, it gets a lot easier. Okay, so we're going to start in the 5th chain. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th chain, I can feel it right here. We're going to work a double crochet, a chain 1, and then another double crochet worked into that same space. So we're making a giant V-stitch. We're going to skip 1, 2 chains, and in the next chain, we're going to do that again. We're going to work the double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet, and we're going to do that one more time. Skip the next 2 stitches. I'm finding them with my finger and thumb, and then in the next or the 3rd stitch from that last stitch, we work another double crochet, a chain 1, and a double crochet worked in to that same space. Okay, so now we're just going to skip 1 chain, and then the next chain we're going to work only a double crochet. We're going to do that for 9 stitches. So that's 1, and the next stitch, 2, 3, and again using my finger and thumb each time to find that next stitch. If you just take the time to do it this way, this yarn is so easy to work with. Now, if you're just going by visuals, it is challenging, but use those nerve endings in your fingers. Okay, let's pause and see how far we've come. Okay, so that's our V-stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need 3 more. Find the next stitch. 7, 8, and 9. Now we're going to repeat what we did at the beginning. We're going to skip 1 chain, and in the next chain we're going to work the V-stitch again, the double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Now we skip 1, 2 stitches, and we work another V-stitch. It does take a little more time to set up the foundation row, but once we do that, it will go much faster than this. Okay, skip the next 2 and a V-stitch in that next stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So how many do we have? We have 3. So once you get those 3 V-stitches, now we skip 1 stitch and we work 1 double crochet in each of the next 9 chains again. So that's 1. So I'm going to go ahead and work these 9 stitches, being careful to find that chain with my finger and thumb. After working those 9 stitches, I'm going to go ahead and do a count just to verify that I did it correctly. And now it's time to do another repeat with the V-stitches and the 9 stitches. I'll just go ahead and just start you this, and to finish the rest of the row, we're going to skip 1 chain. Remember, at the beginning and end with the V-stitches, skip 1, and then in the next chain, we work another V-stitch, chain 1, double crochet, and then we skip 2 stitches in between the V-stitches. Skip 2. So we have 3 V-stitches. Now we just skip 1 stitch, and then we're going to work 1 double crochet in each of the last 9 stitches, and that finishes out the row. So this is what you should have at the end of row 1. You should have 3 repeats of the V-stitches and the 9 stitches. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn. To begin row 2, we're going to start with a chain 3. We're going to skip the first stitch, and we're going to work a front post double crochet. It's a very long, scary sounding name for a very easy stitch. It's the same as a double crochet, except we're going to wrap our hook, and we're going to wrap our hook around the body of the stitch. You see the stitch, the hook goes around the body like this, and then we complete the stitch as we normally would. And this is actually easier to work these than it is to find the top loops. So it goes much faster and easier. So we're going to work these front post double crochets in the next 8 stitches because we skipped the first stitch, but don't worry about that because we're going to be working in the turning chain as we come back for row 3. So again, wrap the hook, and the hook just goes around the body just like this. It's going to give it a nice cushy texture for the baby. And then we come to the V-stitches, and we work only in the chain 1 space, and we work a V-stitch, which again, double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. We're going to skip the next 2 double crochets again to work only in the chain 1 space, working a V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet worked in that chain 1 space. Skip the next 2 stitches and then work another V-stitch worked in that chain 1 space. So let's go ahead and pause and take a look at what we have. All right, let's keep going. Skip that double crochet from the V-stitch, and now in the next 9 stitches we're going to work front post double crochets. Okay, so I finished those 9 front post double crochets. Now it's time to work the V stitches again. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet worked in that chain 1 space of the next V stitch. So we're going to do that 3 times as we work our way across. And then we will repeat that one more time. So go ahead and repeat that last time, and I'll show you how the ending works. When you get to the end of the row, we're going to work a double crochet worked right into that chain 3 space. Let's go ahead and take a look after 2 rows. All right, let's go on to row number 3. And this is really coming together quickly. We're going to chain 3, and starting in the V stitches again, we're going to skip the first stitch and the double crochets of the V's and work only in the chain 1 space. Double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet worked in the first V stitch, and we're going to do that in the next 2 V stitches as well, just like we've been doing. And that's how we will work in the V stitches now and throughout. Okay, now we come to the what was the front post double crochets. Now we're going to work a back post double crochet. We come in from the back door and wrap our hook around the stitch and complete the double crochet in that manner. So instead of going in the front door like front post, we come in the back door. So we'll wrap our hook around the stitch, pull up a loop, and then complete the stitch. So we're going to work it that way over those 9 stitches. And this is a nice relaxing motion, and again using the finger, the nerve endings in your fingers, you can direct your hook very easily, and you can even work this in, I would suggest, even dim lighting. If you're watching television with your family or a movie and the lighting is not particularly good, I've have no trouble working these post stitches just using the fingers. So what's really nice about this blanket is you're going to have different textures depending on the side that you're looking at. You're going to have this texture, which is really going to be fun for the baby to touch and to feel. Crocheters have also written me about concerns having holes in baby blankets, for fear that baby's fingers will get stuck in the holes. My experience has been just the opposite, that it's a wonderful tactile experience for the baby to be able to weave their fingers in and out and just explore their world with different, shapes and textures. Okay, so now we get, again, to the V stitches in their design, and we work in that chain 1 space, a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Okay, so now we have our 3 V stitches. Now back to the back post double crochets. I'll start this and then have you finish the row. We work back post double crochet just like that, again coming in the back door and around the stitch. And this is a really fun way to learn this stitch because the yarn is so large and soft, and I think very easy to see the stitching. All right, so go ahead and finish out this row, and I will show you how the row ends. As you work across that last set of stitches, remember you're going to only have 8, and then at the end, in that chain 3 space, we're going to work a double crochet. So this is what you should have after completing 3 rows. And then we're going to turn now for row number 4. And this is where things are going to change again. We're going to chain 3. We're going to skip the first stitch, and in the next stitch, we're going to work a V stitch. Double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet worked into that stitch, skip 2, and into the next one. Again, remember, use your nerve endings in your fingers to find where that stitch goes. So it's a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skip 2 stitches, and in the next stitch, working through those 2 top loops, we're going to work a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. Skip the next stitch. Now working across the V stitches, we're going to work into the top of that first double crochet of the V stitch, double crochet in the chain 1 space, and double crochet in the next double crochet. So we're going to work those 9 double crochets over the V stitch section. Again, double crochet in that next double crochet of the V stitch, and then double crochet in the chain 1 space, and then next in the next double crochet. Go ahead and pause. So you should have 9 stitches, and if you're not sure, go ahead and give it a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now we're going to work our V stitches. Remember, skip the first stitch, and then the next double crochet, we work a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skip the next 2, V stitch. I'm having to regularly pull more yarn up because I am going through this yarn so quickly because it's such a quick to crochet project. Skip 2, so after working those 3 V stitches, we skip that last double crochet, and then we work in the tops of the V stitches from the previous row. Work a double crochet in the double crochet and in the chain and in the double crochet. So go ahead and repeat this all the way across the row, and I'll show you how the row ends. So I've worked those last 9 double crochets across. Do not work in the churning chain after those 9 double crochets. Okay, so now we're going to turn, and for row number 5, we're going to chain 3, and we're going to start by working back post double crochets. That's a little different from how we started. So we're going to work back post double crochets in each of the next 8 stitches. Remember, we're skipping the first stitch. You can see just how easily and how smoothly it is to just crochet with this yarn with such a large hook in hand. Okay, let me make sure I have my 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I need one more. After we work those, we come to the V-stitches, and you know what to do with those. Working only in the chain 1 space, we work that double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. So we're going to work the next 2, and then when we get to these stitches, we're going to work again 9 back post double crochets, and then returning again to working the V stitches. So go ahead and work across the row, and I will show you how this row ends. At the end of this row, work a double crochet into the turning chain. Now let's take a look at the front side, which would be traditionally the front side, but I actually think that either side is quite nice and is going to be very stimulating for the baby's eyes to look at. Okay, so now for row number 6, chain 3, and again skip that first stitch, and we start working in the chain 1 spaces for those V stitches. So we do 3 of those. After working those 3 V stitches, we're going to return to working front post double crochets. So we'll work 9 front post double crochets, and you can tell if it's time to work the front post because the front side will be nice and even and flat. If it's time to work a back post, you'll notice as you're working in this direction, you will see the lines from the back post double crochets. So I'll go ahead and finish these 9 post stitches. So this is going to be your repeat across the row, working the 3 V stitches and then the 9 front post double crochets. Of course, when you get to the end of this row, you will have 8, and I will show you how that ends. After working those last 8 front post double crochets, we work a double crochet into that turning chain. So now let's take a look at what we have. This is after 6 rows. And boy, did they go quickly. So after working 6 rows, our blanket is already 5 inches deep. Now we're ready to start row number 7. And I'm going to go a little bit faster because you should understand what to do at this point. We're going to chain 3. And this is again time to change back to the V stitches and then the post stitches. So we're going to skip that first stitch, working in the next stitch, work a V stitch. So after every 3 rows, we will switch the pattern. Remember, skip the next 2 stitches, and in the next stitch, we work another V stitch. Skip 2 more. And in the next stitch, work a V stitch. Let's try that little chain again. All right, and then after that, we skip that last stitch. And then again, working in the V stitches, working those double crochets into each double crochet and chain 1 space. Make sure you only work 9 stitches as you go across this V stitch section. It'd be very easy, for example, to add a stitch in between the stitches, in between spaces here. So you want to be careful that you don't do that. And it's probably a good idea to just stop and count. Something as simple as counting the number of stitches in a given section or even in a given row can make a tremendous difference. Okay, let's pause. And I'm going to do just that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now we're ready to go back to the V stitches. Skip that first one and then begin that V stitch section all over again. So go ahead and work this across, and I will show you how the row ends. At the end of row 7, we just work those 9 double crochets over those V-stitches. Do not work in the turning chain. Okay, for row 8, we are going to turn, chain 3, skip the first stitch, and we are going to work post stitches. And if you're not sure, look at the other squares to see what it looks like. You see that flat surface, so you know we're going to be working front post double crochets, and there will be 8 of these since we are skipping the first stitch of the row. After working those 8 front post double crochets, we're working in the V stitches again. So you know what to do. Go ahead and finish row 8. At the end of row 8, we're going to work a double crochet in the turning chain. All right, let's go ahead and turn to begin row number 9. We will start with the chain 3 and skip the first stitch, and then we will begin with the V stitches worked in those chain 1 spaces. After those V stitches, we are going to be working back post double crochets, 1 over each of the next 9 stitches. And again, you can tell because you see the lines from the other post stitches. So after working those 9 back post double crochets, we just continue that pattern across with the V stitches in the V stitches and the 9 back post double crochets. I'll show you how this row ends. Row 9 ends by working a double crochet in the turning chain. Remember, you're only going to have 8 of these back post double crochets and then the double crochet in the turning chain. And let's go ahead and see what we have after 9 rows. And you can see the yarn color is starting to gradually change, and I love the way this does this. It's not a dramatic change, but just a gradual fading of the color. Okay, so now I'm going to give you an assignment. We're going to go back and repeat rows 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And you can look across the bottom of your screen. I'll tell you how many repeats you need to do for the size that I'm going to be making. But if you want to make this a longer blanket, feel free to do that. Also, I'm going to put a little time mark right here across the bottom of the screen. Should you need the stitch support, you can go back and review rows 4 through row 9. So go ahead and work that, and then I will show you what I have after this. And let me show you how this is coming together. I just love the gradient coloring of this yarn. So now we're going to work 2 perimeter rounds, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. We're going to turn 90 degrees. I still have the front side facing us. We're going to chain 2, and what we're going to do is we're going to work 2 double crochets in each of the row ends until we get to the corner. So whatever the number of rows that you've completed, that number times 2 will be the approximate number of how many stitches you will have along the side of your blanket. So go ahead and work that to the corner, and I'll show you what to do at the corner. After working along the row end to the corner, we get to the last space, and instead of just putting 2 in this corner, we're going to turn the corner with extra stitches. So what we're going to do is we are going to work 12 double crochets into this corner, and for each corner as we go around the side of, or around the perimeter of the blanket. So it does look a little bit tight in the corner, but don't let that worry you, because we are not going to be adding any more stitches for perimeter round 2, and this will help to have ease in there, and it will be able to turn those corners pretty flawlessly. Okay, so now working in the chain, which was the foundation chain, we're going to work 1 double crochet for each chain basically. So we have a chain 2 space here, so we will work 2 double crochets in that space. You just have to pay careful attention to this over the V-stitch area. So 1 in the next space, and then 2 in that next chain 2 space, 1 in that next chain is the same place where that V-stitch was made. Now there's just 1 chain here, so we just work in 1 double crochet, and then it should be easy to see the next 9 stitches just opposite where those other double crochets were worked. So go ahead and work all of those double crochets along the foundation chain in this manner. I'll go ahead and work the V-stitch section with you again, since it is slightly different than having just turned the corner. And again, these are just double crochets. Okay, so we get to the next V, or the V-stitch section. There's 1 chain in this space, 1 here where that V-stitch was made, and then between the V-stitches, you're going to work 2 double crochets, and then 1 again, 2 over this next chain space, and then 1, and now 1 in the next chain space, and then we return to working opposite the double crochet. So go ahead and work this to the next corner. Once we get to the next corner, I'm not going to work in the last chain. Instead, I'm going to work in the entire double crochet stitch in that space between the last 2 stitches. So the next corner, I've gone ahead and I have worked those 12 double crochets. Instead of working in that chain 1 space, I just worked in the space between the last stitch and the next stitch. Okay, so after we do that, we return to working along the other row ends, and we're going to work 2 double crochets in each row end. Of course, we've already worked in the first one as we turn that corner. And if this is just a little bit curly, don't worry about that, because the next round is going to settle that out completely. Okay, so go ahead and work those stitches in the row ends until you get to the next corner. Once we come to that third corner, you know the drill. Work 12 double crochets into that space. This will be a chain space that you're working this into. After working those 12 double crochets in the corner, then we go back to working just double crochets. You may have to pull back on those stitches a bit to find that very first stitch in that V stitch. So 1 double crochet in each of these double crochets and 1 in the chain 1 space, just the way we've been doing on the regular rows of this project. And then, of course, when we get to the double crochets, we're just going to work 1 stitch in each of those. So go ahead and work to the corner, and I'll show you how this round ends. Now that we're at the same place where we started, this section here is where we're going to work 12 stitches, but we already have 2 stitches in this section, the chain 2 does not count as a stitch. So we're going to work an additional 10 stitches into this section, and then we're going to join to the top of this first stitch of the round. So I'll go ahead and work these 10 double crochets. So after working those additional 10 stitches in this corner, let's go ahead and find that stitch. We're going to join with a slip stitch, chain 2. Again, this stitch is a chain, a turning chain. I do not count it as a regular stitch. So after the chain 2, we're going to start the ribbing round, and this will be our final round. And the way we do this is we work a front post double crochet followed by a back post double crochet, and we work this all the way around the perimeter of the blanket. Front post double crochet and back post double crochet. And I think it gives it a delightful, delightfully decorative round, and it adds another texture again for the baby to enjoy. So go ahead and work that all the way around the blanket. After working this all the way around, I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of this round, and I'm going to give it a chain and pull it tightly. Do be careful about pulling this too hard because this yarn will easily break, so you want to be careful about that. And let me go ahead and show you how you can hide this loose strand very quickly and effectively. Now, because it's a light color, I'm going to want to hide it amongst the stitches that are of the similar color, just so that it doesn't stand out in any way. So I'm going to bring it down, and I have turned so that the back side of the work is facing, and I'm going to work it up into the next stitch, and then I'm going to bring it back down a little more deeply into the next stitch. Okay, and then I'm going to bring it back up into the next stitch and back down again. I'm just doing it this way instead of working it deeper into the stitches, just because of the color difference. And let me go ahead and clip this close, but not too close to my work.
Well, I hope you enjoyed making the quick and easy 4-hour baby blanket with me today. If you did, I would love to hear from you. God bless. Bye-bye.